Levi had been playing Minecraft when a bolt of lightning struck. Everything went black. The next time he opened his eyes, he wasn't in his room anymore. He had become the sixth prince of the Dawn Kingdom. What the hell? Before he could panic, something even crazier appeared in his vision. 10 hearts, 10 hunger bars, an inventory, a crafting grid. It was Minecraft's interface. The moment he opened it, a familiar message popped up. Achievement unlocked, open inventory. Levi couldn't help but grin. His Minecraft abilities had come with him. That meant insane durability, absurd regeneration, crafting, and countless possibilities. If he played his cards right, this world wouldn't stand a chance. A knock pulled him back to reality. His old butler, Trist, looked ready to lose his mind. "My prince, nearly 1,000 refugees are outside the city. They're starving, angry, and close to rioting. We should leave Wintertown and return to the capital before it's too late." Levi calmly shook his head. "If I run now, I'll lose my chance at becoming king. Bring me every bone, potato, and piece of coal you can find. If my plan fails, then you can drag me back yourself." Although completely confused, Trist could only obey. Once the room was empty, Levi sorted through his memories. This wasn't just another fantasy world. It was filled with humans, elves, dwarves, monsters, and powerful practitioners. His new identity was Levi Charles, the sixth prince of the Dawn Kingdom. 6 months earlier, the king had challenged all 8 of his children. "Rule the territory you receive. Whoever governs best within 5 years becomes the next ruler." Most princes inherited wealthy cities. Levi, he got Wintertown, a frozen border settlement with no money, no industry, poor harvests, and monster attacks every season. Basically, the king had handed him the hardest difficulty possible. To make things worse, a nearby town had been destroyed by monsters. Nearly 1,000 refugees had fled straight to Wintertown. The town barely had enough food for its own people, let alone another 1,000 mouths. Anyone else would have abandoned the territory. Levi wasn't interested. Going back to the capital meant walking straight into the new queen's political games. Staying here at least gave him a fighting chance. Besides, he had Minecraft. His request suddenly made perfect sense. Bones became bone meal. Bone meal instantly grew potatoes. Coal baked them. Infinite baked potatoes. Enough to feed everyone. But first, he knighted furnaces. Furnaces required cobblestone. Cobblestone required a pickaxe. A pickaxe required wood. He was already planning to head for the nearest forest when something caught his eye. Right outside the Lord's mansion stood dozens of priceless ornamental pine trees. Beautiful. Levi looked at them with a smile that made any gardener cry. Every empire starts the same way. He cracked his knuckles. First, chop down some trees. Levi immediately tested his new Minecraft abilities by punching one of the mansion's priceless pine trees. It worked. The tree turned into collectible blocks, and the remaining trunk floated in midair like normal Minecraft physics. After gathering enough logs, he crafted planks, a crafting table, and his first wooden pickaxe. Achievement unlocked, time to mine. He dug straight into the ground, collected stone, and quickly upgraded to a stone pickaxe. Achievement unlocked, getting an upgrade. While Levi happily mined cobblestone, Trist returned after arranging the supplies. Following the sounds outside, the old butler accidentally fell into Levi's mining pit. Seeing floating dirt, disappearing blocks, and a prince casually mining underground left him completely speechless. Magic was the only explanation Levi gave. Surprisingly, Trist accepted it without question. Curious, Levi handed him a stone pickaxe to test his theory. Trist could use Minecraft tools and even place Minecraft blocks, but he was far slower and weaker than Levi. That confirmed Steve's powers belonged mainly to Levi, while others could only use his creations with heavy limitations. After collecting 4 stacks of cobblestone, Levi finally stopped mining. Now he had everything he needed. His next goal: build an enormous wall of furnaces and cook enough baked potatoes to feed every refugee outside Wintertown. Back on the surface, Levi used his freshly mined cobblestone to craft dozens of furnaces. Achievement unlocked. Hot topic. In minutes, he built a massive wall of 60 furnaces, leaving Trist completely convinced that his prince was some kind of hidden master mage. Soon, carts loaded with bones, potatoes, and coal arrived. The servants complained the entire way, convinced Levi was about to waste even more resources while refugees starved outside the city. Instead, Levi handed out stone hoes and ordered everyone to till the frozen ground. The workers thought he'd finally lost it. "It's winter, nothing can grow," one farmer, Pete, protested. Levi simply smiled. Using Minecraft tools, the frozen soil tilled effortlessly. Once the potatoes were planted, Levi turned every bone into bone meal, or as he called it, growth powder. One sprinkle. The potatoes sprouted. A second. They bloomed. A third. The crop was fully grown. The workers stood frozen as Levi pulled over a dozen potatoes from a single plant. Their jaws hit the floor. Pete immediately realized this growth powder could ignore seasons and accelerate crops to full maturity in seconds. Seeing Pete's farming knowledge, Levi promoted him on the spot. His first mission was simple: grow, harvest, bake, and deliver enough potatoes to feed every refugee outside Wintertown. The gloomy backyard instantly transformed into a giant production line as everyone rushed to farm and cook. Satisfied that everything was under control, Levi gave Trist one final order. "In 3 hours, open the city gates and feed the refugees." Then he yawned. "And bring me a lounge chair first." With the refugees still surrounding Wintertown, Knight Commander Isabella Windsor refused to open the city gates. Food inside the town was already running out, and letting desperate refugees in would only trigger a riot. So when Trist suddenly arrived with Levi's order to prepare food relief in 3 hours, she thought he had gone crazy. Until Trist calmly explained. Levi had somehow solved the food crisis using magic. Not only was there enough food, but every refugee would eat their fill. Isabella didn't buy it for a second. Knowing Levi's terrible reputation, she assumed this was just another reckless stunt and demanded to see him herself. When she arrived at the mansion's backyard, she froze. Servants were farming, harvesting, and baking potatoes nonstop. A gigantic wall of furnaces stretched across the garden, while potatoes poured out almost faster than they could be loaded. The entire place had turned into a massive food production line. Even Isabella couldn't make sense of what she was seeing. Trist couldn't hide his pride. His Highness created all of this, from planting to a baked potato. It takes less than 30 seconds. Impossible. Before she could question him further, Levi walked over. Stopping right in front of the stunned Knight Commander, he met her gaze with complete confidence. "You think I'm lying." Still unconvinced, Isabella begged Levi to cancel his order. If the city gates opened without enough food, Wintertown would descend into chaos. Levi didn't argue. Instead, he let her watch the workers. A handful of growth powder turned tiny potato sprouts into fully grown crops within seconds. Isabella was stunned. When Levi casually turned beast bones into more growth powder right before her eyes, she finally accepted the truth. The food crisis was over. With enough beast bones, Levi could keep producing the magical fertilizer and feed the entire town. Realizing she'd been wrong, Isabella knelt before him. "In 3 hours, I'll open the gates and bring the refugees inside safely." Before letting her leave, Levi gave one warning. "This crisis isn't a coincidence. Someone is pulling the strings." He hinted that the refugee disaster, delayed supplies, and everything happening in Wintertown had likely been planned to eliminate him from the Crown Prince competition. Even Trist was shaken. Could Levi's useless reputation have been nothing more than an act all along. Without explaining further, Levi simply tucked a red flower into Isabella's hair. It suits you. Flustered but respectful, Isabella accepted the order and left. Far away in the prosperous city of Winterhold, the real mastermind finally appeared. Levi's younger brother, Richard Charles, calmly listened as his knight reported that spies had already stirred the refugees into rebellion. Even the city gates had been sabotaged from the inside. Richard smiled. As long as Levi failed, the entire northern border would belong to him. Crushing his own brother was simply one less obstacle on the road to the throne. Back at the Night Fortress, Isabella ordered the city gates to be opened in 3 hours. The knights were stunned. With food running out, letting over 1,000 starving refugees inside sounded like suicide. But Isabella stood firm. She swore on the Windsor family name that Levi had already solved the food crisis. Hearing that oath, the knights stopped arguing and accepted the order. Still, Isabella noticed several knights exchanging suspicious glances. Levi's warning had been right. There were traitors hiding within the order. The moment the meeting ended, the spies secretly rushed to inform their allies. Since they couldn't stop the relief mission, they would force the refugees to riot before the gates opened. Meanwhile, Pete reported the results to Levi. Over 3,000 baked potatoes were ready for immediate relief, with thousands more stored away as production continued. The miracle harvest left everyone speechless, while Levi quietly kept one secret to himself. He had claimed his growth powder had limits. It didn't. If people discovered he could produce it endlessly, every kingdom on the continent would come after him. After checking on the operation, Levi casually collected the experience orbs generated by the furnaces, pushing his Minecraft level all the way to 31. Everything was finally in place. Standing before dozens of wagons loaded with baked potatoes, Levi gave a single order. Move out. Time to feed the refugees. Levi personally led dozens of wagons filled with baked potatoes to the city gates. The townspeople were stunned. The same prince they had cursed for years was actually handing out food. Nobody believed it. Curious, they followed the convoy to see what he was up to. Meanwhile, the traitors inside the city made their move. They tried to send a signal to the assassins waiting outside, but Isabella was already expecting them. She ambushed the group, cut off the signalman's hand with a single strike, and forced the remaining knights to surrender. The spies were thrown into the dungeon before they could warn anyone. Outside the walls, hundreds of starving refugees waited in the freezing cold. Hidden among them were assassins sent by Richard. Their plan was simple: start a riot, sneak into the city, and kill Levi. But before they could act, the city gates opened. Wagons overflowing with hot baked potatoes rolled out instead. The refugees couldn't believe their eyes. Standing atop the walls, Levi calmly addressed the crowd before ordering the food to be distributed. The assassins tried stirring up chaos, but Isabella immediately had the knights restore order. Everyone will be fed. Anyone who starts trouble dies. The warning worked. The refugees lined up peacefully, each receiving hot food for the first time in days. The assassins had no choice but to blend into the crowd and wait for another chance. Watching the starving refugees cry with relief as they ate, Levi couldn't help smiling. He nudged Trist. I did a pretty huge good deed today, didn't I? Holding back tears, Trist placed a hand over his heart. You certainly did, Your Highness. Standing beside them, Isabella said nothing. But for the first time, she truly began to respect Levi. Levi's disaster relief spread across Wintertown in no time. The same people who had cursed him yesterday were now completely confused. The sixth prince actually did something good. Some even joked that he must have been possessed. If that's true, one man laughed, I hope the demon never leaves. Still, most people were relieved the refugees had finally been saved. With the crisis under control, Levi turned his attention to the captured traitors. No matter how badly they were beaten, the four knights refused to talk. So Levi changed tactics. Instead of threatening their lives, he threatened their families. As traitors, they deserved execution, but Levi calmly added that their wives and children would also lose everything, be stripped of their status, and spend the rest of their lives as serfs. The knights broke instantly. They confessed everything. They had been bribed by Winterhold's Knight's order to help the assassins and sabotage Wintertown from the inside. Levi got the information he needed, but kept his promise. The traitors were executed, while their families were spared, reduced to commoners instead of serfs. After leaving the dungeon, Isabella finally shared her conclusion. Winterhold belonged to the seventh prince, Richard Charles. The delayed relief supplies. The infiltrators. The assassination attempt. Everything pointed to one man. Richard had made his first move in the battle for the throne. The traitors were gone, but Levi already knew the real enemy. The mastermind could only be Richard Charles, the ruthless seventh prince who ruled Winterhold, a man infamous for killing even his own servants on a whim. Compared to him, the captured knights were nothing more than pawns. Watching how terrified they were of becoming serfs only strengthened Levi's resolve. No one deserved to live like that. A person should live like a human being. One day he would abolish serfdom entirely. After the interrogation, Isabella's opinion of Levi changed even more. The prince she once despised was nothing like the man standing before her now. Still, the danger wasn't over. She warned Levi that assassins were almost certainly hiding among the refugees. Levi wasn't surprised. If Richard wanted me dead, sending assassins is exactly what he'd do. Rather than hiding behind guards forever, Levi made a decision. He asked Isabella to personally train him in swordsmanship using her toughest methods. Although shocked, she accepted. Levi then turned his attention to the refugees. Leaving them in tents would only lead to more deaths, while scattering them across the town would create conflict. His solution was simple. Build them houses. Both Isabella and Trist thought it was impossible. Thousands of homes couldn't be built before winter claimed more lives. Levi simply smiled. Not with ordinary methods. He pulled out a single block of cobblestone and handed it to Isabella. The moment she placed it on the ground, it instantly expanded into a full-sized stone block. She stared at it in disbelief. Only then did Trist realize Levi's plan. With Minecraft blocks, they could build an entire refugee settlement in record time. After Trist left, Isabella apologized for losing her composure. Levi brushed it off and decided to show her why he wanted to spar with a second-order knight. Standing before a cobblestone block, he shattered it with nothing but his bare fists. Isabella was speechless. Even she needed battle aura to do that. Levi didn't. After examining him with her battle aura, she became even more shocked. A first-order knight would have been crushed by the pressure. Levi. He only complained that it felt itchy. By the time she stopped, Isabella had reached a single conclusion. Your physical strength is already on par with a second-order knight. Even she couldn't explain how it was possible. Once Isabella stepped outside, Levi ran another experiment. He cut his own finger with a letter opener. Instead of bleeding, his health simply dropped from 20 to 19 hearts. A few breaths later, it returned to full. His hunger bar had decreased slightly instead. After eating a pastry, it instantly recovered. Levi couldn't stop smiling. His Minecraft body worked exactly like the game. As long as he wasn't killed in one hit, he could regenerate almost endlessly. That made him far harder to kill than anyone had imagined. Now all that was left was learning how to fight. Levi ordered Wintertown's architects to design housing for over 1,000 refugees. After studying the plans, they gave their answer. Even if everyone works non-stop, it'll still take at least 3 months. Levi shook his head. I'll give you 3 days. The architects thought he'd lost his mind. Until Levi led them to the backyard. In front of everyone, he stacked a few cobblestone blocks and built an entire stone house in just 13 seconds. Everyone was dumbfounded. Even Isabella couldn't hide her shock. If this could be used on a battlefield, entire forts could appear overnight. Levi called the blocks a special alchemical material, cobblestone, before letting the architects try them for themselves. The moment they placed a block on the ground, it expanded into a full-sized stone cube. Within minutes, they had built another house on their own. The architects were ecstatic. They immediately realized this invention could completely revolutionize construction. Levi smiled. So, does it still take 3 months? Kerr, the lead architect, laughed confidently. If you can supply enough cobblestone, we'll finish every refugee house in a single day. Satisfied, Levi handed over hundreds of cobblestone blocks and ordered construction to begin immediately. The race to build Wintertown's new refugee settlement had officially begun. Levi visited the quarry with Isabella, expecting to collect building materials. Instead, he discovered something even crazier. The moment he touched ordinary stone, it instantly transformed into Minecraft cobblestone inside his inventory. Jackpot! Even the quarry workers froze. 1 second, mountains of stone were there. The next, gone, replaced by perfectly stacked cobblestone blocks. The foreman dropped to his knees. Gods above. Even Isabella was speechless. Every time she thought she'd seen Levi's limits, he broke them again. Levi quietly collected several stacks of iron ore as well. Iron sword, iron armor, shield. If assassins wanted a fight, he'd be ready. Meanwhile, construction teams arrived at the refugee camp carrying hundreds of cobblestone blocks. When Kerr announced, "We'll build 100 houses today," everyone laughed. 1 day. Yeah, right. But the laughter stopped fast. Workers placed block after block. 10 minutes later, a complete stone house stood before everyone's eyes. Silent. Then another house. And another. The entire refugee camp watched in disbelief. Refugees couldn't hold back their tears. Food. Warm shelter. A lord who actually cared. For the first time in a long while, they felt hope. Long live Lord Levi. Long live the Lord. The cheers echoed across Wintertown. Watching from the crowd, the hidden assassins panicked. No hunger. No riots. No chaos. Levi had ruined every part of their plan. The captain's face darkened. We move tonight. He revealed a hidden trump card. A third-tier water elemental scroll. It'll keep Isabella busy. The assassins grinned. Tonight, either Levi dies, or they do. Levi finished smelting his first batch of iron. Achievement unlocked, getting tough. Pure iron ingots dropped from the furnace one after another. Even Trist was stunned. This quality, these weapons would be terrifying. Isabella nodded. Even the royal capital doesn't forge iron this pure. Levi walked to the crafting table. Without a hammer, without a forge, he simply arranged the ingots. Poof! A complete set of iron armor appeared. Helmet, chestplate, leggings, boots, then an iron sword, a shield. Isabella blinked. On what? Even Trist could only stare in silence, creating full equipment in seconds. It completely shattered common sense. Levi tossed the chest plate to Isabella. Hit it. Isabella hesitated but wrapped her fist in battle aura. Boom! The armor flew across the yard. She picked it up. Not a single dent. Impossible. Levi smiled. Looks sturdy enough. Next came the iron sword. One swing. A massive stone split clean in half. What a blade, Trist muttered. Finally, Levi handed Isabella a plain wooden shield. Block this. He swung the iron sword with full force. Clang! The shield stopped everything. No crack. No scratch. No damage at all. Isabella stared in disbelief. A wooden shield blocked that. Levi only smiled. The MC gear was even stronger than he expected. Satisfied, he stored every item inside his inventory. That's enough testing. As darkness covered Wintertown, silent figures slipped into the Lord's mansion. The assassination had begun. Okay, that's the end of this part, but I promise there's much more to come. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing so you don't miss the next part.